Sit back and enjoy 2 hours of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. According to the Guinness World Records, the only man who has been struck by lightning 7 times was former park ranger Roy C. Sullivan. He suffered the loss of a toenail, lost his eyebrows, had a shoulder injury, burns on his legs, and an ankle injury, burns on his chest and stomach, and his hair caught fire twice. If you are afraid of cheese, you have something called turophobia. Although it may sound curious, it is a rare, specific phobia that can cause intense rejection, anxiety, or even nausea when seeing, smelling, or thinking about cheese. Like other phobias, it is not related to a simple dislike, but to a disproportionate reaction, and in some cases, it can be treated with psychological therapy to reduce the fear response. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and NASA, July 2023 became the hottest month ever recorded globally since modern measurements began, surpassing previous records. This milestone reflects the ongoing trend of rising global temperatures in recent decades. Ancient Egyptians used to put dead mice in people's mouths to treat toothaches. They also crushed dead mice to make a paste with other ingredients and treat patients with pain. Most meteors are actually the size of a grain of sand and disintegrate in the air. The larger ones that actually reach the Earth are called meteorites and are very rare. As they enter the atmosphere at high speed, they produce the glow known as a shooting star, caused by friction with the air. Every day, thousands of these particles enter, although almost all of them burn up before touching the ground. Brazilian police on the island of Marajo ride water buffalo when they patrol, instead of horses. These animals adapt better to flooded, muddy terrain and to the frequent rains of the region, where horses would have more difficulty moving. In addition, buffalo are strong, can travel long distances with loads, and are common in the area, which makes them a practical and efficient option for daily duties. Echidnas, also known as spiny anteaters, have a very particular reproductive characteristic. Their reproductive organ has 4 heads. Interestingly, they do not use it to urinate, and it only becomes visible during the reproductive process. It is possible that cats and dogs are allergic to human dander. Dander is made up of tiny cells that shed from hair or skin, and although it is commonly associated with pets, humans also produce it. In some cases, these particles can trigger reactions in sensitive animals such as itching, redness, or sneezing, since their immune system responds to proteins present in human skin in a similar way to other environmental allergies. In the 1500s and 1600s, in some regions of Europe, a device called the scold's bridle, also known as branks, was used as a form of punishment for people considered problematic or quarrelsome. This device consisted of a metal structure placed over the head that restricted speech with the intention of enforcing silence. The crew of Apollo 15 placed a small aluminum sculpture on the moon to commemorate fallen astronauts. In 1971, that number was 14. There is also a plaque with their names. The work, known as Fallen Astronaut, was created by Belgian artist Paul van Hooijdonk and represents all space explorers who had died up to that point, including both Americans and Soviets. On March 29, 1867, the United States purchased 586,412 square miles of land in the far northwest of the North American continent, which is now the state of Alaska, from Russia. They paid $7.2 million, which was equivalent to about 2 cents per acre. Robert Benke, a farmer from Wisconsin, owns the queen of milk production cows. His cow, Gigi, has produced more milk in 1 year than any other cow, with 8,700 gallons. That is 3 times the national average of what a dairy cow produces in a year. According to a study conducted by researchers at the Harvard School of Public Health, drinking several cups of coffee per day was associated with a lower likelihood of certain mental health problems in both men and women. The results suggested a possible relationship between moderate coffee consumption and a reduced risk. The venom of the box jellyfish is among the most deadly in the world. Human victims sometimes drown due to heart failure caused by pain and shock, and survivors may continue to feel considerable pain for weeks afterward. They also often have significant scars where the tentacle made contact with their bodies. The sloth only urinates and defecates once a week. Constipation is normal for them, and that is why, when they go, it is like giving birth. This process can cause them to lose a considerable portion of their body weight in a single event. To do this, they slowly descend from the trees to the ground, which exposes them to predators, but it is a behavior they consistently maintain. In the 1930s, people who lacked space in their London apartments used to use a baby cage to give their babies more space and fresh air. It was a wire device that was hung outside the window. Yes, that sounds safe. In the small town of El Valle de Anton, Panama, trees grow that have square trunks. It is believed that this strange anomaly of nature does not occur anywhere else in the world. In fact, experts from the University of Florida took some tree seedlings to see if they would retain their rectangular shape if planted elsewhere in the world, and they did not. When planted in other places, the trees had normal circular trunks. Fat Man was the code name of the atomic bomb that was detonated over the Japanese city of Nagasaki by the United States on August 9, 1945. It was a plutonium device with a much more complex implosion design than the other bomb used in the war, and its detonation caused massive devastation. This event, along with a previous attack, marked the end of World War II just days later. If you have an injury to your hand or fingers and there is nerve damage, your fingers will not wrinkle when submerged in water. This is because wrinkling does not occur only from water absorption, but from a response controlled by the nervous system that constricts blood vessels. For this reason, this effect is sometimes used as a simple way to assess possible nerve damage. According to scientists from the Lujan Neutron Scattering Center at Los Alamos National Laboratory, the largest gold crystal in the world was found years ago in Venezuela. It is the size of a golf ball and weighs half a pound, and it is estimated to be worth $1.5 million. In Venezuela, a liter of water costs more than a liter of fuel. The price of gasoline remains one of the lowest in the world due to strong government subsidies, costing only a few cents per liter in its subsidized version, while drinking water can be more expensive in practice. This happens because, due to supply failures, many people must buy water from private providers at significantly higher prices. In fact, it can be considered rude to tip in Japan. If you decide to give a tip, the proper etiquette is to place the money in a tasteful decorative envelope, seal it, and then hand it to the recipient with a slight bow. In many establishments, excellent service is already included in the experience, so offering extra money may create discomfort. Instead, a respectful attitude and sincere gratitude are usually much more appreciated. In South Korea, you can get a plastic surgery procedure called a smile lift, where both corners of the mouth are raised to give you a permanent smile. This procedure is usually quick and is performed under local anesthesia, with minimal scarring hidden in the natural folds of the skin. It is especially popular among people who want a more friendly expression in photos or in professional environments, where appearance can strongly influence first impressions. There is a phobia called allodoxophobia, which is actually the fear of people's opinions. People who suffer from this live in constant fear and anxiety of hearing what others think about them. In many cases, they avoid conversations, social media, or any situation where they might be evaluated. It may be related to negative past experiences or constant criticism, and it is sometimes confused with extreme shyness, although its impact on daily life is usually much deeper and more limiting. The oldest octopus fossil was discovered in northeastern Illinois, United States. It dates back approximately 296 million years. This finding suggests that the ancestors of modern octopuses already existed much earlier than previously thought, and that their evolution occurred in ancient shallow seas. Unlike modern octopuses, some of these early specimens retained more rigid structures that disappeared over time. To honor Jamaican sprinter Usain Bolt, Berlin gave him his own piece of the Berlin Wall that was 12 feet tall. It weighed nearly 3 tons. He is not going to take that home, right? In 1905, Frank Epperson, an 11-year-old boy from the San Francisco Bay Area, invented the popsicle by accident. He left his sugary soda powder mixed with water outside overnight, and by morning, it was frozen. He originally called it an Epsicle, but the name was eventually changed to popsicle. Researchers at Ohio State University have discovered something they call experience taking. It is when, while reading a book or a story, people actually change their behavior or thoughts to match those of a fictional character in a book or story they can identify with. Unconsciously, they become that character. In 1930, the planet Pluto was named by an 11-year-old girl named Venetia Burney. She suggested the name Pluto to her grandfather, who in turn suggested it to a friend who happened to be an astronomy professor at the University of Oxford. He was also one of the leaders in the global effort to produce an astrographic chart. The web of the golden silk orb weaver spider is so strong that it can capture a bird, and then the spider eats it. Its silk combines strength and elasticity, being stronger than steel of the same thickness, which allows it to absorb impacts without breaking. Although it is rare, cases of small birds being trapped in these webs have been documented, especially in tropical regions where these spiders build large and dense webs. There are giant pink slugs found only in the subalpine regions of Mount Capitar in Australia. They can grow up to 8 inches long, and on a good day, hundreds of them can be seen. Their intense color remains even in cold and wet environments, and they usually stay hidden during the day, coming out after rain to feed on moss and decaying leaves, making them a very unique species within that isolated ecosystem. According to the Guinness World Records, the largest mouth in the world belongs to the bowhead whale. It can measure up to 16 feet long, 13 feet high, and 8 feet wide. Its tongue alone weighs nearly 2,000 pounds. This enormous size allows it to filter large amounts of water to feed on small organisms such as krill, using baleen instead of teeth, and it can consume tons of food in a single day during peak feeding seasons. There are wildlife overpasses, green bridges, and eco-ducts that were built over highways to allow animals to safely cross to the other side. They can be up to 197 feet wide. The largest are designed to accommodate large mammals such as bears, wolves, moose, and deer. They are covered with soil and vegetation to provide a suitable habitat for a wide range of animal groups. In the year 1890, inventor Ludwig Eitler invented an alarm mechanism that was built into a bed. When you set the alarm for a specific time, the bed would raise to a 45-degree angle and throw you out of it. It was not successful. Slovakia and Slovenia are confused so often that staff at the Slovak and Slovenian embassies have to meet once a month to exchange misdirected mail. This confusion happens even at international events, where delegations or documents arrive in the wrong country. Both countries have taken the matter with humor and have even collaborated on awareness campaigns to help better distinguish them abroad. According to a study conducted by the University of New South Wales, good manners go a long way. The study found that making an extra effort to say thank you makes people see you as someone with greater interpersonal warmth. It can also make you a happier person. Historians believe that William Shakespeare was born and died on the same date. He was born on April 23, 1564, and died on April 23, 1616. The Maya considered slightly crossed eyes to be beautiful. Parents of babies would hang objects, such as stones, right between their children's eyes to try to make them cross-eyed. This practice was associated with aesthetic ideals and also with cultural beliefs linked to the elite, as it was thought to evoke traits of certain deities. In addition, in artistic representations and sculptures, figures with this characteristic can be observed, which suggests that it was a valued symbol within their society. Apollo 16 astronaut Charles Duke, who at that time was the youngest human in history at 36 years old to walk on the moon, left a photo of his family with the inscription, "This is the family of astronaut Charlie Duke from the planet Earth, who landed on the moon on April 20th, 1972. The average person yawns around 250,000 times throughout their life, and babies in the womb even do it as early as 12 or 14 weeks. Although its function is still not fully understood, yawning is believed to help regulate brain temperature and maintain alertness, in addition to being contagious in many social situations. Austrian inventor Valentin Vodev has invented a hybrid of a skateboard and a stroller. With just the press of a button, the stroller transforms into a skateboard and can travel at a speed of up to 10 miles per hour. London, England has a restaurant where clothing is optional, called Bunyadi. It costs up to $95 per person for food and drinks, and you can choose between clothed or nude seating areas, where you will be served by partially unclothed staff. Scientists estimate that a single ragweed plant can release 1 billion grains of pollen over the course of a single season, and they can travel hundreds of miles with a light breeze. This pollen is one of the main causes of seasonal allergies, since its particles are very light and easily inhaled. Even low concentrations can trigger intense symptoms, which explains why ragweed affects so many people during late summer and fall. Studying the earwax of a blue whale can tell scientists the story of its life. The technique described in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences can be used as a tool to understand the hormonal and chemical biography of the whale. It can also be a window into how pollutants, discontinued long ago, can still permeate the environment today. If you leave towels, chairs, or umbrellas overnight to reserve a spot on crowded Italian beaches, authorities will take what you left and charge you a fine of about $220 to recover your property. This practice is prohibited in many coastal areas to prevent people from unfairly reserving public spaces, especially during peak season. Inspectors make rounds at dawn and remove the items, promoting more equal access for all visitors. Some people call cranberries bouncing berries because they actually bounce when they are ripe. This happens because they have small air pockets inside that give them elasticity, something that is even used as a selection method in the industry. The highest quality cranberries bounce well. In addition, this characteristic allows them to better withstand impacts during transport and storage. The parks of the Walt Disney Company can deny entry or request that a person leave the premises if their appearance does not meet their dress code standards. This includes tattoos that are considered offensive or inappropriate according to their policies, which aim to maintain a family-friendly environment for all visitors. After the huge success of the video game Pokémon Go, the company T-Mobile launched a special promotion for its customers in the United States. It offered unlimited data to play for 1 year without it counting against the plan, as well as discounts on accessories such as portable batteries, since many users were quickly draining their phone batteries while playing. In medieval times, bras were called breast bags. These garments were simpler than modern designs and were worn under clothing to provide support or shape the figure. In some historical records, they appear as linen pieces with straps that were tied to the body, and although they were not common in all regions, they show that the idea of supporting the chest with a specific garment has existed for centuries. Ben & Jerry's received the Compassion in World Farming Good Dairy Award for the high-quality treatment of their cows, which includes making sure they receive regular massages. They also pay their employees twice the minimum wage, so it is not just the cows receiving love. According to a study conducted, smells can influence our dreams. Study subjects who were infused with the scent of roses while dreaming had, in almost all cases, pleasant dreams. However, when the air around those subjects was infused with the smell of rotten eggs while dreaming, they had negative dreams. In 1818, when Abraham Lincoln was 9 years old, his mother Nancy died from a mysterious milk sickness that was spreading through southern Indiana. It turned out that the strange illness was caused by drinking contaminated milk from a cow that had ingested the poisonous white snakeroot plant. Tibetan nuns can change their core body temperatures with a form of meditation called Gautamo. Using electroencephalograms and temperature measurements, a team of researchers recorded the internal temperature of the nuns in the freezing cold of the Himalayas. The nuns were able to raise their core body temperature to nearly 101 degrees Fahrenheit. Cats actually sweat through their paws. Cats do have sweat glands, but their skin is covered in fur, so the amount of cooling that sweat can provide is minimal. The paw pads have the highest number of sweat glands, so they primarily sweat there. The mantis shrimp can strike with a speed equal to that of a bullet, 50 times faster than a blink. In fact, a strike from a mantis shrimp can easily break the shell of a crab or a mollusk. This attack also generates a small cavitation bubble that collapses and produces a flash of light and momentary heat, amplifying the impact. Thanks to this ability, it is one of the most effective predators in the ocean and can even crack aquarium glass if it feels threatened. Before modern refrigeration existed, people in Russia and Finland would place Russian brown frogs in their milk to keep it fresh. According to organic chemist A.T. Lebedev of Moscow State University, the frog's skin secretions are loaded with peptides and antimicrobial compounds. Robert F. Kennedy failed the 3rd grade. Smaller than his brothers, Bobby was often considered the weak one in the family, and he even attended nearly a dozen schools. Despite those beginnings, over time he developed strong academic discipline and a determined personality, which led him to stand out in college and later in public life as an influential figure in United States politics. Bears are the only mammals that do not urinate or defecate during the months of winter hibernation, and doctors have studied how bears recycle their urine to help human patients with kidney failure. During this period, their bodies convert waste into useful proteins, preventing muscle loss and toxin poisoning, something that has sparked great interest in medicine to develop more efficient treatments in humans. California rabbits are actually hares, not rabbits. They can reach speeds of 40 miles per hour and jump up to 10 feet into the air. Unlike rabbits, they are born with their eyes open and with full fur, which allows them to move shortly after birth. Their large ears not only improve their hearing, but also help regulate their temperature in the warm climates of the Southwest. Sushi is actually meant to be eaten with your hands, and sashimi with chopsticks. In Japanese tradition, eating sushi with your hands is completely acceptable, especially pieces like nigiri, since it makes it easier to handle the rice without it falling apart. In addition, you are supposed to lightly dip the fish in soy sauce, not the rice, to prevent it from breaking apart and to better preserve the flavor. Canada is the largest country in the Western Hemisphere and has the longest coastline. Its territory stretches from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific and the Arctic, giving it thousands of miles of coastline with a great diversity of landscapes. This vast coast includes fjords, islands, and nearly untouched regions, and it plays a key role in fishing, trade, and the lives of many coastal communities. A funnel cloud is only considered a tornado when it actually touches the ground. While it remains suspended in the air, it is still a funnel cloud, although it can be just as dangerous if it is close to the surface. When it finally makes contact, it begins to lift dust and debris, becoming visible in its full extent and being officially classified as a tornado by meteorologists. The opossum is the only marsupial in North America. It is known for its ability to play dead as a defense mechanism, entering an involuntary state that can last several minutes. In addition, it has notable resistance to venoms such as those from some snakes and helps control pests by feeding on insects, small rodents, and ticks, making it a beneficial animal for its environment. Antarctica has no reptiles. Reptiles need heat to keep their bodies functioning, so they cannot survive in severe and prolonged cold temperatures. They would literally freeze solid. Unlike mammals or birds, they cannot regulate their internal temperature, so they depend on the environment. Even in nearby regions, their presence is almost non-existent, since extreme cold completely limits their survival. There is a hangover clinic in Sydney, Australia. For the astonishing sum of $200, you can receive a 1-hour treatment that includes half a gallon of hydration fluids, oxygen therapy, and vitamins to help you recover from a night of too much alcohol. A group of hippopotamuses is called a bloat. A group of zebras is called a zeal. A group of crows is called a murder, a group of bears is called a sloth, a group of apes is called a shrewdness, a group of giraffes is called a tower, and a group of emus is called a mob. On January 12, 2011, 49 of the 50 states had snow on the ground. That is nearly 71% of the country. The only state without snow was Florida. This event was due to an intense cold wave that affected much of the United States, combined with several consecutive winter storms which allowed snow to cover unusual regions, including southern areas where this phenomenon is rare. In 1978, serial killer Rodney Alcala appeared on a game show called The Dating Game and won. Honeybees have 5 eyes, 2 compound eyes that help them see around them simultaneously, and 3 simple eyes positioned on the top of their heads to assist with orientation. The simple eyes, called ocelli, detect changes in light and help stabilize flight, while the compound eyes can perceive ultraviolet patterns, allowing them to locate flowers with great precision. The female loggerhead sea turtle sometimes travels thousands of miles to return to the beach where her eggs were laid. They use the Earth's magnetic field as a kind of natural map to navigate during their migrations. This behavior, called philopatry, makes them return with great precision to the same nesting site, even after many years, facing dangers such as predators, pollution, and fishing nets along the way. Panama hats are actually made in Ecuador, not Panama. They are traditionally made from fibers of the toquilla plant, hand-woven by Ecuadorian artisans. The name became popular because they were exported through Panama during the construction of the canal, where they gained international fame after being worn by workers and visitors. According to National Geographic, about a century ago, there were around 100,000 wild tigers in Asia. Over time, factors such as habitat loss and illegal hunting drastically reduced their population. In recent years, it is estimated that only a few thousand remain in the wild, although conservation efforts have managed to stabilize and even slightly increase their numbers in some regions. Actor Tommy Lee Jones and Vice President Al Gore were roommates during their freshman year at Harvard. Both studied at Harvard University, and although they took very different paths, they shared that stage of university life at the beginning of their careers, something many consider a curious coincidence. There are no natural lakes in the state of Maryland. All the lakes are artificial, created by damming rivers. Many of them were built for water supply, flood control, or recreation. and today they are an important part of the local landscape. The largest moon of Jupiter, Ganymede, has an ocean of salt water buried under 95 miles of ice. Scientists estimate that it is 60 miles deep, which is about 10 times deeper than our oceans. The first St. Patrick's Day parade in New York was held on March 17, 1762. It was organized by Irish soldiers serving in the British Army, who marched to celebrate their roots and traditions. Over time, this event grew into one of the largest and oldest parades in the world, attracting millions of people each year. To capture street view imagery of a desert, Google hires camels to carry its Trekker camera. This portable system allows images to be captured in places where vehicles cannot access, such as dunes or narrow paths. Thanks to this, areas like deserts and remote sites have been documented, expanding Google Street View coverage with unique routes that would otherwise be difficult to record. Actor Steven Seagal received a humanitarian award from PETA in 1999 for preventing the export of baby elephants from South Africa to Japan. There is an island in Brazil that has not been touched by humans because it is covered with deadly snakes. Ilha de Queimada Grande, or Snake Island, has up to 5 golden lancehead snakes per square meter. The golden lancehead is responsible for 90% of snakebite-related deaths in Brazil. The snakes are so dangerous that the Navy has prohibited anyone from landing there. Voyager 2 was launched on August 20, 1977, and Voyager 1 was launched on September 5th. They were sent on different trajectories, and Voyager 1 was placed on a path to reach Jupiter and Saturn before Voyager 2. The mother and the first wife of Theodore Roosevelt both died on Valentine's Day in 1884. His mother died of typhoid fever, and 12 hours later, his wife died of Bright's disease and complications from giving birth to the couple's first child 2 days earlier. The state sport of Maryland is jousting. It became its official sport in 1962 and has been practiced there since colonial times. In the United Kingdom and Ireland, you can buy insurance against cyberbullying. The insurance company Chubb will pay up to $74,600 to help with legal costs and relocation expenses. Scientists from Georgia State University have discovered that monkeys share another trait with humans. They are also susceptible to optical illusions. To test this, capuchin and rhesus monkeys looked at a visual illusion where 2 dots were surrounded by rings but were actually the same size. And they were fooled, just like many people. An Australian crocodile measuring 19 feet long has a bite force of 3,700 pounds. That is the highest bite force ever recorded. This power is due to the extremely robust musculature of its jaw, designed to firmly hold large prey. In addition, its teeth are not made for chewing, but for gripping and spinning prey in the water in a movement known as the death roll, which helps tear it apart. Praying mantises can rotate their heads 180 degrees. They use this ability to scan their surroundings using 2 large compound eyes and 3 additional simple eyes located between them. Scorpions glow a bright bluish-green color under ultraviolet light. This phenomenon is due to fluorescent substances in their exoskeleton, which react when exposed to UV radiation. Thanks to this, researchers can easily locate them at night with special flashlights, and it is believed that this characteristic may also help them detect light levels in their environment. In Tennessee, there is a law that prohibits the sale of bologna on Sundays. This curiosity comes from old laws known as blue laws, which regulated commercial activities on holidays or religious days. Although many of these rules have been modified or eliminated over time, some unusual provisions have remained or are cited as part of the state's legal tradition. The owner of the gin tub in Brighton, England, had a Faraday cage built into the roof to block cell phone reception. He wants his customers to socialize the old-fashioned way, by actually talking to each other. Gasoline, kerosene, benzene, and turpentine were used to treat head lice. References to this appear in medical journals since 1917. These methods were dangerous and could cause irritation or poisoning, so over time they were replaced by safer and more effective treatments. Today, there are specific approved products that eliminate lice without putting health at risk. The ALS Association received around $115 million in donations in 2014, compared to approximately $2.8 million the previous year, driven by the money raised through the Ice Bucket Challenge. Part of these funds has been allocated to research that contributed to advances such as the identification of new genes associated with the disease and the development of treatments. The Chinese soft-shell turtle is the first known animal that can urinate through its mouth. This was first discovered by researchers from the National University of Singapore, who noticed that the turtles put their heads into puddles of water and moved their tongues, but they were not drinking. At the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing, white mice were fed food 24 hours before feeding the athletes to protect them from food poisoning. If there was a problem, the food could be traced and destroyed before being served to the athletes. Walmart employs 2.3 million people worldwide. This makes it one of the largest private employers on the planet, with operations in numerous countries. Its enormous workforce ranges from physical stores to distribution centers and digital platforms, allowing it to manage a massive logistics network capable of supplying millions of products daily on a large scale. In 2005, the Austrian art collective Gelatin created a massive pink rabbit sculpture called Hase, which means hair, and installed it on a hillside in the Piedmont region of Italy. The piece, more than 200 feet long, was designed for hikers to interact with it and, over time, to decompose naturally. Although it was originally estimated that it would disappear around 2025, its deterioration has been gradual, and today, it remains as a curious installation in ruins. According to a report by Michael Gibson Light, a doctoral candidate at the School of Sociology at the University of Arizona, ramen noodles are now more popular than tobacco as currency in United States prisons. I do not blame them. They are delicious. On July 16, 1935, the first parking meter in the world, known as the parkometer, was installed on the southeast corner of what was then 1st Street and Robinson Avenue in Oklahoma City. YouTube surpasses 2,500,000,000 monthly active users worldwide. In comparison, Facebook is around 3 billion. Instagram surpasses 2 billion, X has around 500 million, and Snapchat surpasses 700 million active users. Boston has poems on its sidewalks that can only be seen when it rains. They are painted with a special waterproof paint that only appears when it is wet. There is an underwater museum off the coast of the Spanish island of Lanzarote called Museo Atlántico. It contains sculptures by British artist Jason de Caris Taylor and represents our changing and sometimes destructive role in the modern world. Canada is larger than the entire European Union. In fact, it is 33 times larger than Italy and 15 times larger than France. When the minimum wage first became law in the United States in 1938, it was 25 cents per hour. Adjusted for current inflation, that amount is approximately equivalent to between $5 and $6 per hour. The term CAPTCHA stands for Completely Automated Public Turing Test to tell computers and humans apart. On March 13, 1781, astronomer William Herschel discovered the planet Uranus. It was the first discovery made in modern times, and also the first to be made using a telescope. There used to be a sport called ferret legging, where a ferret is placed inside a contestant's pants without underwear. The contestant is whoever can endure the teeth and claws for the longest time. Bamboo flowers are rarely seen. Some species can develop flowers after 65 to 120 years, but the most fascinating part is that if they bloom, all the plants of that same bamboo species will develop flowers at the same time, no matter where in the world they are located. In Shanghai, your credit score can be lowered for not sending greetings or not visiting your elderly parents. In Texas, it is against the law for any person to have a pair of pliers in their possession. In the 1904 Summer Olympic Games, gymnast George Iser won 3 gold medals, 2 silver and 1 bronze, all while using a wooden prosthetic leg. He competed in St. Louis, where he stood out in several events in a single day, something uncommon. His achievement is considered one of the most surprising in Olympic history, as he overcame a major physical limitation with discipline and skill. The first woman in the United States to receive a medical degree was Elizabeth Blackwell, back in 1849. She was admitted to medical school after a student vote that was initially done as a joke, but she ended up graduating with honors. She later helped found medical institutions for women and promoted female participation in medicine at a time when it was uncommon. There are moonquakes on the moon that are similar to our earthquakes, only they are weaker and less common. In fact, there are 4 known types: deep moonquakes, shallow moonquakes, thermal moonquakes, and meteorite moonquakes. Bald eagles build nests that are usually around 5 feet in diameter. They often use the same nests year after year, and they can become even larger, reaching as much as 9 feet and weighing up to 2 tons. These nests, called eyrie, are built with large branches and are constantly reinforced, So over time, they can reach impressive sizes and become the largest bird nests ever recorded. In the 1990s, Saddam Hussein commissioned the creation of a version of the Quran written in a very unusual way, using his own blood as ink. Approximately 1.8 gallons of blood were extracted over a period of 2 years. In Australia, there is a Christmas song where Santa's sleigh is pulled by 6 white kangaroos. Their names are Jackaroo, Curly, Bluey, Two-Up, Desert Head, and Snow. This song is part of Australian Christmas culture, where celebrations take place in the middle of summer, so many traditions are adapted to the local climate, including versions of Santa at the beach and carols with local elements. Hurricane names are recycled every 6 years, with the exception of hurricanes that have been so deadly and costly that the future use of their name for a different storm would be insensitive. When that happens, the name is permanently retired from the list and replaced with another. This system is managed by the World Meteorological Organization, which maintains predefined lists for different regions and facilitates clear communication during emergencies. Alaska has the longest coastline in the United States, at 6,640 miles long. This is due to its vast size and the large number of islands, bays, and fjords that make up its territory. In fact, its coastline is so extensive that it exceeds the total of all the other states combined, making it one of the most complex and extensive coastal regions in the world. According to a report from the National Center for Health Statistics of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, American men now weigh an average of 196 pounds, 15 pounds more than 20 years ago, and women weigh 168 pounds on average, which is 16 pounds more than 20 years ago. The voice of Chewbacca from Star Wars was created using vocalizations of bears, as well as the sound of walruses, badgers, and the howls of sick animals. In late 2016, the Shanghai Tower installed one of the fastest elevators in the world, developed by Mitsubishi Electric. This elevator reaches speeds close to 74 kilometers per hour, equivalent to about 4,000 feet per minute. There is a social anxiety called parthenophobia, where there is an abnormal and persistent fear of young girls, specifically virgins, and it is rare. Our mouths secrete approximately 1/4 of a gallon of saliva per day. This production helps break down food from the very beginning, facilitating digestion and protecting the teeth against bacteria. Saliva also contains enzymes and compounds that keep the mouth moist and healthy, and its flow can increase when smelling or thinking about food, even before taking the first bite. According to a study conducted by Japanese researcher Hiroshi Nitono, looking at images of cute animals such as puppies and pandas at work not only improves your mood, but also increases your attention to detail and overall performance. In North Korea, only military and government officials can own motor vehicles. Although in practice there are some controlled exceptions, most of the population relies on public transportation or bicycles. Car ownership is heavily regulated and is usually tied to status within the system, which makes it uncommon to see heavy traffic outside the capital. In India, as well as in other parts of the world, standing babas are people who have taken a vow to never sit, lie down, or squat for 12 years in order to transport their minds to a realm of spiritual consciousness not experienced by those who sit. They stand in front of a small hammock on which they rest their arms during the day and their torso at night. One leg must remain on the ground at all times. The first occurrence of identical twins in birds was discovered in the emu. This finding is extremely rare, since birds usually develop a single embryo per egg, which makes cases like this uncommon. The discovery caught the attention of scientists because it provides clues about embryonic development in birds and how unusual cell divisions can occur at very early stages. There is something called elimination communication, where instead of using diapers, parents learn to use timing, signals, and cues to know when their baby needs to go to the bathroom. This practice is common in several cultures and can begin from the first months of life, helping reduce diaper use and strengthen the connection between the caregiver and the baby. Over time, some children develop greater body awareness and gain control of their elimination habits earlier. At the beginning of World War I, the magician and escape artist Harry Houdini sold war bonds and taught United States soldiers how to free themselves from German restraints. He used his escape expertise to show practical release techniques, especially useful in case of capture. In addition, he participated in public events to raise funds, combining entertainment with support for the war effort. According to a study published in the Journal of Behavioral Therapy and Experimental Psychiatry, mood can affect how we walk, and vice versa. We walk with slumped shoulders if we are sad, and with a bounce if we are happy. Making people imitate a happy walk actually made them feel happier, and more sad if they imitated a sad way of walking. Scientists from Junagadh University in India have extracted gold from the urine of rare indigenous breeds of cattle. They analyzed 400 gyr cows and found traces of ionized gold salts that they were able to isolate, precipitate, extract, solidify, and melt, between 3 to 10 milligrams of gold per liter of urine. There is a signpost forest just outside Watson Lake, Yukon. It began in 1942 when a soldier named Carl K. Lindley was injured while working on the Alaska Highway. He was taken to the Army Air Station in Watson Lake to recover, and while he was there, he felt homesick. So he decided to put up a sign from Danville, Illinois, his hometown. Tourists continued the tradition, and today there are 72,000 signs from around the world. 5 high school students and their teacher from a small town in Sicily, Italy, created a prototype of a vending machine that turns your recyclable plastics into phone cases. It shreds the plastics into small pellets that are then melted and used to create 3-dimensional printed phone cases. The project was created to encourage other young people to recycle more. You can now hire an autonomous taxi in Singapore. During the testing period, the cars had a driver in the front seat who could take control at any moment and a researcher in the back monitoring the computers. They are equipped with a detection system that uses lasers to function like radar, and 2 cameras on the dashboard to scan obstacles and detect changes in traffic light. San Francisco uses urine-repellent paint to protect public walls from bodily fluids. It causes urine to splash back onto the offender. This was inspired by Hamburg, Germany, which painted all the walls of its city with this repellent and saw public urination decrease significantly. A 63-year-old Tasmanian woman gave birth to her first baby in August 2016, becoming the oldest first-time mother in Australia. The blue whale has the highest percentage of body fat of any animal, with more than 35%. With whales weighing up to 180 tons, that is easily a record amount of fat for a single animal. This layer of fat, known as blubber, not only serves as an energy reserve, but also acts as thermal insulation and helps with buoyancy in the cold ocean waters where it lives. The governments of Iraq and India have imposed internet blackouts during exams to prevent students from cheating. Both Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez were on the television show Barney and Friends when they were children. In fact, the old friends were constantly shown together dancing and singing on screen. The Lehe Ledoux Wildlife Zoo in Chongqing, China, places visiting people in cages instead of the animals. The cages are stocked by lions and tigers, so guests are warned to keep their fingers and hands inside the cage at all times. The retired NBA basketball player and all-star Yao Ming has his own winery in Napa Valley. Yao Family Wines opened in 2009, produces ultra-premium wines, and is open from 10 to 5 for tastings. According to a study in the Journal of Hand Therapy, millennials have weaker muscles in their hands due to all the texting, photos, scrolling, and gaming they do, especially men. The positive side is that they have stronger thumbs. The Taj Mahal in India took more than 22 years to build. Construction began in 1632 and was completed in 1653. It was built when Emperor Shah Jahan was filled with grief for his deceased wife and wanted to create a testament to his love. There is a flower called the corpse flower, which is named that because it smells like rotting and decomposing flesh, and it only blooms every 7 to 10 years. This odor attracts insects such as flies and carrion beetles that act as pollinators. In addition, during its brief blooming, it can generate heat to better disperse the scent, and it can reach impressive heights, making it one of the largest and most striking flowers in the world. The birth name of Steven Tyler, from the band Aerosmith, was Stephen Victor Tallarico. Vampire bats have a protein in their saliva that acts as an anticoagulant, which keeps the blood of their victims flowing while they feed. Researchers have been studying it to see if it can help dissolve blood clots and aid stroke victims. Reykjavik in Iceland actually heats its sidewalks and streets to keep them free of ice and snow. Since they began installing these heated roads more than a decade ago, they have enjoyed significant savings by not having to spend taxpayer money on snow removal services. Albert Einstein actually had an illegitimate daughter who was born in 1902. It is believed that her name was Liesel, and that she was the result of his relationship with Mileva Maric before they married. Her existence became known through personal letters discovered years later, although her fate remains a mystery, as there are no clear records of her later life, and some historians suggest that she may have died in infancy or been given up for adoption. 80% of YouTube views come from outside the United States. YouTube also exists in more than 88 countries and can be browsed in a total of 76 different languages, covering approximately 95% of the internet population. A Filipino fisherman found a natural pearl weighing 75 pounds and kept it hidden under his bed for 10 years. He discovered it in a giant clam and kept it as a good luck charm. It has 170,000 carats. The unborn offspring of a female sea louse actually chew their way out from inside the mother in order to be born. Scientists from the University of Chile spent 1 year designing a new vaccine that will give anyone who drinks even a small amount of alcohol an immediate and very bad hangover. They developed it to help address the problem of alcoholism in the country. According to the Guinness World Records, the oldest tree known to have been planted by humans is 2,300 years old. The sacred fig, or bo tree, was planted in Sri Lanka in the year 288 before Christ. The longest tennis match in history was between the French player Nicolas Mahut and the American player John Isner at the 2010 Wimbledon Championship. It lasted 11 hours and 5 minutes over 3 days and consisted of 183 games. John Isner ended up being the winner. Since the first nuclear test explosion on July 16, 1945, at least 8 nations have detonated 2,054 nuclear test explosions at dozens of test sites around the world. Queen Elizabeth and her husband, Prince Philip, were third cousins, since they both descended from the same great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria. In addition, they were also related through another European branch, which was common among royal families of the time, where marriages served to maintain alliances between different monarchies. Skunks are actually immune to snake venom. This allows them to face certain snakes without suffering the usual deadly effects, making them opportunistic predators. Although they are not completely invulnerable to all species, their resistance gives them an advantage in dangerous encounters, especially when searching for food in areas where snakes are common. The jaguar is the national animal of Brazil. Its scientific name is Panthera onca, and it is the largest carnivorous mammal in Central and South America, weighing up to 211 pounds. Dyslexics see numbers and letters backward. It is a reading disorder, not a vision disorder, which means that Braille readers can also be dyslexic. Dyslexia is related to the way the brain processes written language, affecting word decoding, fluency, and spelling. It can present in different ways and is not linked to intelligence, so many people develop strategies to adapt. Joey Jaws Chestnut, a 32-year-old native of California, reclaimed his title by winning the annual Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest of 2016 held in Coney Island. He devoured 70 hot dogs in just 10 minutes. That is one hot dog every 8.6 seconds. According to neuroscientist Glenn Jeffrey, who studies vision at University College London, the eye color of reindeer changes depending on the time of year. In the summer, they actually turn golden, reflecting more light through the retina, which helps them cope with the nearly continuous daylight of the Arctic summer. In the winter, however, they turn a deep blue to help them cope with the almost continuous darkness of winter. The word dinosaur comes from the ancient Greek words deinos, meaning terribly large or awe-inspiring, and sauros, meaning lizard. The name was invented in 1842 by Richard Owen. Researchers in the United Kingdom have created a robotic rectum so that proctologists can practice their physical rectal exams. It allows medical professionals to learn without using real-life volunteers. I know that is much more convenient, but there is something inherently unsettling about a robotic backside. Mary, Queen of Scots, became queen at only 6 days old. This is because her father died and she was his successor. During her childhood, the country was governed by regents in her name while she grew up away from Scotland. Later, her life was marked by political and religious conflicts that eventually led to her abdication and a tragic fate. Researchers at Murdoch University in Perth have discovered goldfish up to 12 inches long and weighing up to 4.2 pounds in the Vassie River in southwestern Western Australia. They believe it is the result of people releasing their goldfish into the water. This is because in the wild, that is the size they can reach. The sand tiger shark exhibits a unique reproductive behavior in which, inside the womb, only one of the embryos fully develops. As it grows and develops its early teeth, it feeds on the other embryos, which result in only the strongest being born. It is a clear example of survival of the fittest. Most mammals do not live long after their reproductive years. Only a few that we know do, such as the orca, possibly some great apes, and humans. In these cases, older individuals can provide advantages to the group, such as passing on knowledge, caring for offspring, or improving collective survival, which has led to this phenomenon being studied as part of social evolution. The female Burmese python incubates its eggs by raising its body temperature up to 7 degrees above the air temperature. They achieve this through frequent shivering or muscle spasms. This behavior, known as shivering thermogenesis, allows them to maintain stable conditions for embryo development. During this period, the mother remains coiled around the eggs, protecting them from predators and regulating the humidity of the environment. The colossal squid has the largest eyes ever studied in the animal kingdom, measuring nearly 11 inches, which is approximately the same size as a volleyball. In fact, researchers believe they may be the largest eyes that have ever existed. These enormous eyes allow it to detect very faint light in the depths of the ocean, including flashes produced by other animals, giving it an advantage in identifying predators or prey in an almost completely dark environment. After Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, his body was taken on a 2-week, 994-mile journey by train. It was accompanied by the body of his son, William Wallace Lincoln, who had died of typhoid fever at only 11 years old and had been buried in the Washington, D.C. area in 1862. The train made a route through 400 railroad stations, and viewings were organized where his body was displayed for mourners. In 2015, astronomers located a gigantic cloud of methanol, an alcohol called methanol, surrounding a stellar nursery that measures more than 310 billion miles across. Over time, this could help astronomers understand how some of the most massive stars in the universe form. Some sharks can live up to 100 years, although most of them live from 20 to 30 years in the wild. Some species, such as the spiny dogfish, live well beyond 100 years. In fact, the Greenland shark can exceed 200 years, making it one of the longest living vertebrates known, growing slowly in cold, deep waters where its metabolism is lower. In 2006, a woman from Michigan named Lynn Sterling attempted to sell a mummified human skeleton on eBay. eBay removed the listing because it violated its policy against the sale of human remains. Siberia has a population density of fewer than 8 people per square mile. This is especially striking considering that Siberia covers 77% of all of Russia and has an area more than 50 times that of the United Kingdom, yet it still has only half the population. McDonald's in the Netherlands has a placemat called McTracks, where you can make music while you eat. For it to work, you place your phone on the placemat, download an application, and then compose your music, including your voice. The scientific name for brain freeze is actually sphenopalatine ganglioneuralgia. Brain freezes occur because the cold causes arteries to dilate, which leads to a sudden flow of blood to the brain, causing pressure and pain. It usually happens when consuming something very cold too quickly, especially when it touches the roof of the mouth. A simple way to relieve it is to press your tongue against the roof of your mouth to restore normal temperature more quickly. Watermelon is composed of 92% water. In fact, it is an excellent option for staying hydrated and is low in calories. It also provides vitamin C, vitamin A, and antioxidants such as lycopene, which gives it its characteristic red color. In addition, it contains citrulline, a compound related to blood circulation, which makes it a refreshing and nutritious fruit, especially during warm weather. Saltwater Brewery in Florida partnered with the advertising agency We Believers to create fully edible 6-pack beer rings. They are made from byproducts of the brewing process, such as wheat and barley, and are fully biodegradable and completely digestible. They are as strong as plastic ones, but if an animal or bird gets caught in one, it can snack on it and break it down quickly. Spiderwebs have antifungal and antiseptic properties that keep bacteria away, minimizing the possibility of infection. In fact, in ancient times, the Greeks and Romans used spiderwebs to treat cuts. Soldiers also used spiderwebs to heal wounds. They combined honey and vinegar to clean the wounds and then covered them with balled-up webs. Rabbits actually have the ability to sleep with their eyes open. They enter a trance-like state, that is, a half-sleep. The benefit of this in the wild is that it allows them to escape from predators quickly. They can also alternate between this light rest and periods of deeper sleep when they feel safe, usually in burrows. Their ears, always alert, continue detecting sounds even while they rest, giving them a constant advantage against potential threats. It is possible that a venomous snake, even after being separated from its body for a time, can still bite reflexively and inject venom. According to Stephen Beaupre, these animals can maintain certain reflexes active for a short period. In species such as cobras or rattlesnakes, the bite is one of those reflexes, so it is recommended to always keep a distance and exercise caution. According to Lita Proctor, the program coordinator of the Human Microbiome Project at the National Institutes of Health, we have enough bacteria in our bodies to fill a large soup can. That is, up to 5 pounds of bacteria. The most expensive aquarium fish in the world is the Asian arowana, also known as the dragonfish. The Chinese believe it brings good luck and prosperity due to its red color and coin-like scales. This fish has been sold for up to $300,000. Due to its rarity, it is protected by international regulations, and each specimen is usually registered with a microchip to prevent illegal trade, which further increases its exclusivity among collectors. On March 3, 1934, the gangster John Dillinger escaped from a jail in Indiana with the help of a wooden gun that had been smuggled to him by one of his lawyers. In 2015, Japan lifted its 67-year ban on dancing that it had imposed after World War II. They prohibited dancing in places without a special dance license. The law was originally implemented after World War II in an effort to suppress dance halls that were often hotspots for prostitution. The Chinese giant salamander is the largest living amphibian in the world and can grow up to 6 feet long. It inhabits cold, mountainous rivers in China, where it spends most of its time hidden under rocks. It is a nocturnal predator that feeds on fish, crustaceans, and other small animals, and it uses its highly sensitive skin to detect vibrations in the water. It is currently critically endangered due to habitat loss and hunting. During the American Civil War, if you were drafted, you could pay someone $300 to go in your place. This was called commutation and was intended to raise money for the war effort, but it was often heavily criticized because it was better at raising money than troops. According to the Guinness World Records, the United States holds the record for the highest number of medals won in a single Summer Olympic Games. In the 1904 Olympics, held in St. Louis, Missouri, they won 78 gold medals, 82 silver, and 79 bronze, for a total of 239. The first technical casualty of the Civil War died during a 100-gun salute. A cannon fired prematurely and killed soldier Daniel Huff of the 1st United States Artillery. The incident occurred at Fort Sumter just before the fighting began, which makes his death considered the first related to the conflict, even though it did not happen in direct battle. The Antarctic polar desert is the largest desert on Earth. It covers the continent of Antarctica and is about 5.5 million square miles in size. Despite being covered in ice, it receives very little annual precipitation, which classifies it as a desert. Its extreme conditions, with very low temperatures and strong winds, make it one of the most inhospitable environments on the planet. Pearls dissolve if they are submerged in vinegar. A pearl is mainly calcium carbonate, which is susceptible even to the weakest acidic solution. When it comes into contact with acetic acid, a reaction occurs that releases small bubbles of carbon dioxide while the surface slowly wears away. For this reason, pearls require special care and should avoid contact with perfumes, sweat, or cleaning products. ESPN, the sports television channel, is actually owned by Disney with a majority stake of 80%. But that is not all. Disney also owns Pixar, Lucasfilm, Marvel, ABC Broadcasting Company, and also the History Channel. That dark band you can see between the primary and secondary arcs of a rainbow has a name. It is known as Alexander's Band, or the Dark Band of Alexander, after Alexander of Aphrodisias first described it in the year 200 after Christ. In Japan, there is a condition called hikikomori, where around 1 million people, mostly men, have locked themselves in their bedrooms for years, creating social and health problems. Many depend on their families to live and avoid any contact outside their space, which can last for long periods. In recent years, support and guidance programs have been created to help them gradually reintegrate into society. A tiger's stripes are on its skin, not just in its fur. Even if its hair is shaved, the pattern is still visible, since the pigmentation is part of the dermis. Each tiger has a unique design, similar to a fingerprint, which allows them to be identified in conservation studies. These stripes also help them camouflage among vegetation by breaking up their outline. In 2006, a group of researchers in Iceland found a very old clam. To determine its age, instead of counting the rings on the outside of the clam, they opened it and counted the rings on the inside, ultimately killing the clam. But the clam turned out to be 507 years old, making it the oldest animal in the world. There is a replica of Noah's Ark in Williamstown, Kentucky. It was built by the creationist ministry, Answers in Genesis. It has exactly the dimension specified in the book of Genesis, with 450 feet in length, 76 feet in height, and 46 feet in width. And it cost around $100 million to build. AT&T reported that, on average, more collect calls are made on Father's Day than on other days of the year. Although the total volume of calls is higher on Mother's Day, with figures close to 106 million compared to about 83 million on Father's Day, the proportion of collect calls is approximately 27% higher on Father's Day. The former two-time heavyweight champion George Foreman is now a pastor at the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ in North Houston. The 68-year-old reverend felt inspired to join the church because he himself grew up in poverty and wanted to help others after a successful career. Squirrels adopt another squirrel's baby if the parent dies. This behavior has been observed mainly among related females, such as sisters or mothers, which increases the chances of survival for the young within the same family group. In addition, by sharing territory and nearby nests, they can care for the young without a significant additional cost, which favors the genetic continuity of the family in environments where predators and food scarcity represent a constant risk. There are fireworks that can be launched during the daytime using colored smoke. In January 1966, the United States accidentally bombed Spain. A United States Air Force bomber carrying 4 nuclear weapons collided with its refueling tanker over the Spanish town of Palomares, sending the bombs falling toward the ground. There is a sport called joggling, where you run and juggle at the same time. It was invented by a man named Bill Giddus, who juggled balls on a running track to improve his coordination after realizing that the rhythm of a 3-ball juggling pattern matched easily with a wide range of running cadences. The Olympic Games in 2016 in Rio de Janeiro were the first time in Olympic history that a South American country hosted the Games. The event brought together more than 10,000 athletes from around the world and marked a historic moment for the region. In addition, it included new sports such as golf and rugby sevens, expanding the Olympic program and attracting new audiences. There is a ghost town in Tianducheng, China that was built in 2007 and looks exactly like Paris. It includes a 354-foot replica of the Eiffel Tower. They also have replicas of Italian, German, and English towns, but they are also ghost towns. In 1958, Robert Lane of New York City named one of his sons Winner and later named another son Loser. Winner ended up being a criminal with a long arrest record, and his son Loser attended preparatory school on a scholarship, graduated from college, and joined the New York Police Department. In June 2016, there was a massive breach of Twitter usernames and passwords that affected nearly 33 million users. According to the security company Leaked Source, more than 120,000 people had used the password 123456. There is an area in France covering 39 square miles known as the Zone Rouge. It is so contaminated with unexploded chemical munitions and human and animal remains from both world wars that humans are legally prohibited from entering that area. There is an inn in Idaho called Dog Bark Park Inn, where guests can stay inside the largest beagle in the world. You enter the body of the beagle from a second-floor platform. Going up another level toward the dog's head, there is a loft, and there is additional sleeping space in a cozy nook in the snout. There are only 4 commonly used words in the English language that end in deuce. They are tremendous, horrendous, stupendous, and hazardous. It is illegal, except in extreme circumstances, to neuter your dog in Norway. They believe in social sterilization and training. The law seeks to prioritize animal welfare, considering that surgical intervention without medical justification is not necessary. Instead, owner education and behavioral control are promoted to avoid problems such as aggression or unwanted reproduction. Tigers have a retinal adaptation that reflects light back to the retina, which makes their night vision 6 times better than that of humans. This structure, known as the tapetum lucidum, acts like a mirror that makes the most of the little light available in the dark. Thanks to this, they can hunt with great precision at dusk, and that is also the reason their eyes shine when illuminated at night. According to National Geographic, an elephant's trunk has 150,000 muscle units. This incredible structure allows them to perform very delicate tasks, such as picking up small objects or plucking a single leaf, but also to apply great force to knock down branches or trees. In addition, they use it to smell, breathe, communicate, and even to drink water, making it one of the most versatile tools in the animal kingdom. Graviki Labs, based in India, has found a way to use pigment from carbon soot in polluted air to manufacture pens, oil paints, and spray paint. A single air ink pen contains 30 to 40 minutes of carbon emissions from a single car. None of the members of the Beatles knew how to read music. Music was a process of discovery for them and did not involve any books. They developed their songs by ear, experimenting with melodies and harmonies in the studio, which contributed to their unique style. Despite this, they worked with producers and musicians who did understand music theory to better bring their ideas to life. There is a company based in Switzerland that, for the modest sum of $29,000, will name your baby for you. This type of service includes linguistic, cultural, and meaning studies to create unique or uncommon names. In many cases, it is also checked that the name works in different languages and does not have negative connotations, something especially valued by international families or public figures. Theodore Roosevelt was the youngest president in the history of the United States. He took office at only 42 years old in 1901 after the assassination of William McKinley, for whom he was serving as vice president. NASA's robotic spacecraft Juno traveled a total distance of 1,740,000,000 miles to reach the planet Jupiter. It was launched from Cape Canaveral on August 5, 2011, and arrived at Jupiter on July 4, 2016. There are playgrounds in England, Finland, Germany, and the United States designed specifically for elderly residents. They feature low-impact exercise equipment created to promote balance and flexibility, such as elliptical machines, stationary bikes, and flexors. Kamikaze ants from Southeast Asia explode when they are under threat. They have a toxic substance in their heads and in two large glands on the sides of their bodies that are filled with venom. Under threat, they literally explode their heads or rupture their bodies to spray the venom and cover the predator. Having a hamster, gerbil, or ferret is illegal in Hawaii. It is also not allowed to have an alligator, a piranha, or a toucan, but those would be much rarer. These restrictions exist to protect the local ecosystem, since many introduced species can become invasive and seriously affect native wildlife. Due to the isolation of the islands, even small animals could cause significant imbalances if they are released or escape into the natural environment. In California, on July 30, 2016, 42-year-old skydiver Luke Akins became the first person to jump from an airplane without a parachute or wingsuit. He jumped from 25,000 feet toward the ground, setting a world record for the highest jump. He landed safely in a 100-square-foot net, which is approximately one-third the size of an American football field. Sweden was the first nation to declare it illegal to hit a child as a form of punishment, known as corporal punishment, in 1979. Since then, many other countries in Europe have also instituted this ban, as well as New Zealand and some countries in Africa and the Americas. In South Korea, if you win gold at the Asian Games or any medal at the Olympic Games, you are exempt from the country's military service, which is mandatory for eligible men. Instead of full service, athletes must complete a reduced period of basic training and activities related to their discipline, and this benefit has also been extended to some outstanding artists under certain conditions. If you have an irrational fear of Friday the 13th, you have what is called Frigga triskaidekaphobia. This term combines references to the number 13 and to Frigg, a figure from Norse mythology associated with Friday. Although it may sound strange, some people avoid traveling, making important decisions, or even leaving their homes on that date. And in many places, the number 13 is omitted from building floors or airplane rows due to superstition. Cats can suffer from something called whisker stress when eating or drinking from a bowl that is too small. Whiskers are very sensitive to pressure, and every time they touch something, a sensation is triggered in the cat. If you see your cat trying to scoop food out with its paw, it could mean it has whisker stress. According to Guinness World Records, the largest chocolate bar by weight was created by Thorntons in Alfreton, Derbyshire, United Kingdom. The bar measured 12 feet by 14 feet by 1 foot thick and weighed an astonishing 12,770 pounds. The male blanket octopus, the size of a walnut, tears off the tentacles of passing Portuguese man-of-war jellyfish as a defense mechanism. With them, it protects itself from predators, since those tentacles remain venomous even after being detached. In addition, the female can be several times larger than the male, which makes this behavior even more striking in one of the most unusual species in the ocean. In the United States, the government can legally read any email you have that is more than 180 days old without a warrant. The Electronic Communications Privacy Act was enacted long before everyone had email, but the government claims the law still allows them to do this. The pufferfish has enough toxin in it to kill 30 adult humans, and there is no antidote. But surprisingly, the meat of some pufferfish is still considered a delicacy. In countries such as Japan, this dish is prepared by specially licensed chefs who spend years training to carefully remove the toxic parts. Even a small mistake can be dangerous, so its consumption is kept under strict regulations. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, since 1973, 156 people have been exonerated and released from death row. Amish men are actually clean-shaven before marriage, but they are required to grow a beard after marriage. This and all aspects of Amish life are dictated by a list of written and oral rules known as the Ordnung, which describes the fundamentals of the Amish faith and helps define what it means to be Amish. Apple has sold more than 3 billion iPhones worldwide, establishing it as one of the most successful technology products in history. Since its launch in 2007, the iPhone has evolved with improvements in cameras, performance, and connectivity, influencing the design of the mobile industry. In addition, its ecosystem of applications and services has generated a massive economic impact on developers and digital markets around the world. Gloucestershire Airport in England used to play Tina Turner music at full volume to scare away birds, and it worked better than playing bird distress calls. New Zealand does not have a single land snake, but it occasionally receives visits from sea snakes. This is due to its geographic isolation and strict biosecurity laws that have prevented the introduction of many species. The sea snakes that arrive are usually carried by warm currents, and although some are venomous, encounters with humans are extremely rare. 40 or 50 million years ago, the climate of Antarctica was very similar to that of present-day California. During that period, known as the Eocene, there were temperate forests with trees and diverse fauna instead of ice. Over time, changes in the position of the continents and ocean currents isolated the region, causing progressive cooling that transformed the continent into the frozen desert we know today. It cost nearly $25 million to build the Empire State Building. If you include the cost of the land, it comes close to $41 million. It was erected in a surprisingly short time, being completed in just over 1 year during the Great Depression, which also provided employment to thousands of workers. For decades, it was the tallest building in the world and remains one of the most recognizable architectural icons. According to a study conducted by NASA, an astronaut's heart becomes more spherical and loses muscle mass while in space. Once they return to Earth, however, its shape returns to normal. This happens due to microgravity, which reduces the effort needed to pump blood, causing temporary changes in the heart muscle. For this reason, astronauts follow daily exercise routines to maintain their physical condition during missions. The California grizzly bear was designated as the official animal of the state of California in 1953, more than 30 years after the last one was killed. It was also honored on the state flag. Catfish have approximately 100,000 taste buds all over their bodies, most of them in their whiskers. This allows them to detect food even in dark or murky waters where visibility is limited. Their barbels act as highly sensitive sensors, helping them locate prey along the bottom. Thanks to this ability, they can feed effectively at night and adapt to different aquatic environments. In 1964, a pair of Australian scientists, Isabel Joy Baer and R.G. Thomas, conducted a study to determine what causes that powerful and wonderful smell of fresh rain. They determined that it is a mixture of plant oils secreted by some plants after a dry period, bacterial spores, and ozone. On October 18, 1963, French scientists launched the first cat into space in a Véronique AGI No. 47 sounding rocket. The cat, named Félicette, was successfully recovered after a parachute descent. The last McDonald's burger and fries in Iceland are on display in a hostel in Reykjavik. Right now, you can even see images in real time through a live stream. A man bought it on October 30th, 2009, and it is still on display. Europe is the only continent without at least one desert region. To qualify as a desert, an area must receive less than 10 inches of rainfall per year. In July 2016, some monks from Prince Edward Island, Canada, traveled across the island buying up to 600 pounds of lobsters just to release them back into the ocean. The purpose was to cultivate compassion for lobsters and for all beings. The stop sign originated in Detroit, Michigan in 1915 and originally had black letters on a white background. Then it had black letters on a yellow background before finally becoming red and white. The change to red was standardized decades later to improve visibility and associate it with danger, and today its octagonal shape allows it to be recognized even without reading the text. Glass is 100% recyclable and can be recycled infinitely without loss of quality or purity. Each time it is reused, it reduces the need to extract raw materials such as sand, limestone, and soda ash. In addition, recycling glass consumes less energy than producing it from scratch, which reduces emissions. In many countries, returnable containers also help extend its lifespan before re-entering the recycling process. Researchers from McGill University in Montreal, Canada, raised a fish called Polypterus. It can breathe air and walk on land using its front fins. In controlled experiments, some specimens were raised out of water for extended periods, developing changes in their anatomy and movement, which provides clues about how early vertebrates may have adapted to land environments millions of years ago. Since 1996, Harold Hackett from Prince Edward Island, Canada, has thrown 4,871 messages in a bottle into the ocean and has received 3,100 replies. That is a response rate of 63.6%. Jupiter is the fourth brightest object in our solar system. Only the Sun, the Moon, and Venus are brighter. It is one of the 5 planets that can be seen from Earth with the naked eye. Its large size and atmosphere with reflective clouds make it stand out in the night sky, often with a steady brightness that does not twinkle like stars, which makes it easy to recognize even without a telescope. Most Dalmatian puppies are born with solid white coats. The spots are not visible until the puppies are about 10 days old. They appear gradually as they grow, and their distribution is unique in each dog, like a fingerprint. Over time, the spots darken and become more defined, and they can be black or a brown tone known as liver, depending on their genetics. In 2006, Haosheng Hospital in Japan decorated its maternity ward with Hello Kitty-themed murals and items to help calm anxious mothers. The cartoon character appears everywhere, from the walls to blankets for newborn babies. A giant Hello Kitty figure dressed in a pink medical uniform even greets visitors in the lobby. One of the deadliest earthquakes in history occurred in Shanxi, China on January 23, 1556, killing an estimated 830,000 people. It was later revealed that the magnitude of the quake was approximately 8 to 8.3, which is not even close to the strongest tremor recorded. But the earthquake occurred in the middle of an unfortunately densely populated area with poorly constructed buildings and homes. The coconut crab grows more than 3 feet long and is not only the largest land crab, but also the largest arthropod, the group that includes insects, spiders, and crustaceans. It can lift surprisingly heavy objects with its claws and climb trees to feed, including coconuts that it opens with great force. It has a highly developed sense of smell, similar to that of insects, and can live for several decades on islands in the Indian and Pacific Oceans. The Dutch clothing company Cover has created jackets and bags that include technology that blocks every incoming and outgoing signal, making the user completely untraceable by modern tracking devices, such as computer chips embedded in credit cards, and it can even take you off the cellular network. The great white shark is an example of an apex predator, which means that, as an adult, it has no natural predators in its ecosystem. It can reach sizes of more than 19 feet and has an extremely powerful bite, with several rows of teeth that are constantly replaced. Its role in the food chain is key, since it helps maintain the balance of other marine species, especially mammals such as seals and sea lions. The advertising agency FCB Brazil created a doll for Nivea that is made of ultraviolet sensitive material and turns a painful, bright red color if left in the sun. Applying sunscreen turns it white again. The doll was made to teach children the importance of using sunscreen. In the ancient Olympic Games, women were not allowed to compete, and married women were not even allowed to be in the stands to watch. Only young and unmarried women were allowed. Fathers would bring their daughters in the hope that they would marry one of the champions. The Philippines is the only country in the world that denies divorce to most of its citizens. They can apply for legal separation, which allows them to separate their assets and live apart, but it does not legally end the marriage and therefore does not allow remarriage. Since 2003, the Japanese town of Kamikatsu has worked to become a zero-waste community. Although its initial goal was to achieve this by the year 2020, the project is still ongoing. Currently, they recycle around 80% of their waste and separate materials into dozens of categories, becoming a global reference in sustainability and waste management. In 1994, Bill Gates bought Leonardo da Vinci's Codex Leicester notebook for $30.8 million. He did so not only to add it to his personal collection, but also to help promote the launch of Windows Vista by using a program called Turning the Pages 2.0, which allows people to browse through virtual versions of the notebook. There is a Starbucks at the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, where workers undergo intense background checks before being hired. They are not allowed to put customers' names on any of the cups, and, believe it or not, it is one of the busiest Starbucks locations in the country. The 7 Cent Brewery, located in Australia, has created a beer using yeast isolated from the belly button lint of its brewers. This experiment was part of an attempt to explore new sources of wild yeast, something some craft producers do to obtain unique flavors. After isolating and cultivating it under controlled conditions, they achieved a safe fermentation, resulting in a beverage that is more curious than conventional within the brewing world. 47% of the world's mail volume is handled by the United States Postal Service. This enormous proportion is due to the extensive logistics network that covers the entire country, including rural and remote areas, with millions of daily shipments. In addition, its infrastructure allows it to process and sort large amounts of correspondence quickly, relying on automated centers and a transportation fleet that operates continuously. Author Peter Benchley, who wrote Jaws, was the first host of Shark Week. In later years, Mythbusters star Adam Savage, Dirty Jobs host Mike Rowe, late-night host Craig Ferguson, and former Saturday Night Live star Andy Samberg have taken on the role. Believe it or not, green peppers are simply less mature versions of red, orange, and yellow peppers. As they ripen on the plant, they change color and develop a sweeter flavor, while green ones tend to be more bitter and firm. They also contain less sugar and certain nutrients compared to their mature versions, which explains their differences in both taste and nutritional value in cooking. You can buy toothpaste with caffeine that gives you a boost in the morning. Unlike coffee, Power Energy toothpaste works almost immediately, making you more alert even before you have finished brushing. This type of product takes advantage of absorption through the gums, allowing caffeine to enter the body quickly. Although it does not replace a cup of coffee, it has become a curious option for those looking to start the day with energy from the very beginning. There is an isopod called Simithoa exigua that eats the tongues of fish and then becomes the fish's tongue. This crustacean enters through the gills, attaches to the base of the tongue, and cuts off its blood supply until it atrophies. It then anchors itself in place and functions as a replacement tongue, feeding on the host's blood and mucus without killing it, making it a unique case of parasitism. You can buy a fan just for your armpits. The Japanese device manufacturer Thanko has developed the unusual Waki no Shitakura, which in Japanese means device for cooling under the armpit. It is a small battery-powered fan that clips onto your sleeve to send cool air to your armpits for 5 to 9 hours. But if that is not enough, you can plug it into your computer or a battery pack. Hippopotomonstrosis quipedaliophobia means a morbid fear of long words. The term is ironically one of the longest words in the language, and it is not usually used in formal medical contexts, where sesquipedaliophobia is preferred. You can have brain surgery and not feel any pain, because the brain itself does not have pain receptors. That is why, in some procedures, patients can be awake while surgeons work, allowing functions such as speech or movement to be monitored in real time. However, the scalp and surrounding tissues do require anesthesia, since they are sensitive and could cause discomfort if not properly controlled during the operation. When lobsters fight or court each other, they actually spray urine at each other's faces from small urine release nozzles beneath their eyes. This behavior functions as a form of chemical communication, since the urine contains signals that indicate size, reproductive status, and level of aggression. During these encounters, lobsters also move their antennae to better perceive these signals, which helps them decide whether to continue the confrontation or withdraw without direct physical contact. Paris has only one stop sign. Every intersection in Paris is basically a free-for-all where you enter at your own risk. In reality, traffic is mainly regulated with traffic lights, right-of-way rules, and roundabouts, where drivers follow well-established rules. The scarcity of stop signs is due to the fact that the French road system prioritizes other smoother forms of control to avoid unnecessary stops. The pink fairy armadillo is the smallest species of armadillo. It measures only 1.6 inches in length and weighs about 3.5 ounces. In addition, it is pink in color. It lives mainly underground in arid regions of Argentina, where it digs tunnels very quickly to avoid predators and extreme heat. Its shell has a pink tone due to blood vessels close to the skin, and it is rarely seen on the surface. Bulls are actually colorblind. The matador's cape could be any color. It is the movement that attracts the bull's attention to charge, not the color red. A farmer from Pike County and loyal Democrat, Valentine Tapley, swore he would never trim his beard again if Abraham Lincoln were elected president in 1860. He kept his word, and his beard grew to 12.5 feet long. In Las Vegas, an average of 5 to 7 adults are reported missing every day, and more than 200 per month. The Colorado-based company Apollo Peak has created a wine for cats. It does not actually contain alcohol and is made from catnip with beetroot to give it that red wine color. It comes in flavors such as Pinot Meow and Moscato. Single-serving bottles cost $5, and 8-ounce bottles cost $12. In 2007, a priest was arrested for stalking late-night talk show host Conan O'Brien. He wrote threatening notes on parish letterhead, contacted his parents, and showed up at his studio. He referred to himself as his stalking priest. The oldest inhabited house in Scotland is Traquair House, located less than 30 miles from Edinburgh. It has been inhabited for more than 900 years and was originally a hunting lodge for the kings and queens of Scotland. During the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games, the procession is always led by the Greek team, followed by the other teams in alphabetical order, and the last team is always the host country. In 1903, Massachusetts and Missouri were the first states to require a driver's license, although it was not necessary to pass a test to obtain one. At that time, the number of automobiles was still low, so regulations were minimal. Over time, the increase in traffic and accidents led to the implementation of stricter practical and theoretical exams across the country. There is a Romanian woman who knitted a vest made from her own hair. She collected all the hair that fell out while brushing from the age of 40 to 60 and eventually had enough to produce the garment, with a total of 2.2 pounds. According to researchers from the Donald O. Perlman Department of Dermatology at the New York University School of Medicine, the higher you are in altitude, the greater the risk of sunburn, and it is significantly higher, approximately 60% more. Graphic and product designer Ricky Ma built a life-size robot that looks exactly like Scarlett Johansson. It took him 1.5 years and cost $50,000. He calls her Mark 1, which I do not know why he would not just call her Scarlett, and she responds to a set of programmed voice commands spoken through a microphone. In 2003, professional wrestler Macho Man Randy Savage released a rap album called Be a Man. Baby blue whales can consume up to 39 gallons of their mother's milk per day. This milk is extremely rich in fat, which allows them to gain weight very quickly, reaching gains of dozens of pounds daily in their early stages of life. Thanks to this intense nutrition, they grow at an impressive rate and rapidly develop the size needed to survive in the open ocean. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, on average, people who smoke die 10 years earlier than non-smokers. For every person who dies as a result of smoking, at least 30 people live with a serious illness related to the habit of smoking. There is an oasis in the middle of the Gobi Desert called Crescent Lake. It is located 3.7 miles from the outskirts of the city of Dunhuang in western China, and it is believed to have been there for more than 2,000 years. Despite being surrounded by constantly shifting dunes, the lake has managed to preserve its shape and level thanks to underground springs. For centuries, it was a key stop along the Silk Road, and today it remains a highly visited tourist destination. The American politician Henry Kissinger was the person who convinced the great Brazilian soccer player Pelé to play in the United States. In the 1970s, during the rise of the North American Soccer League, there was an effort to popularize soccer in the country, and Pelé's arrival at the New York Cosmos helped attract international attention, increase stadium attendance, and spark interest among new generations in the sport across the United States. According to National Geographic explorer Zeb Hogan, the European catfish is the largest freshwater fish in Europe. It can grow up to 15 feet long, weigh up to 660 pounds, and live for decades, possibly up to 80 years. The Olm salamander has a maximum lifespan of more than 100 years. This cave-dwelling amphibian, known for its pale skin and lack of pigmentation, lives in dark caves in Europe and can go long periods without feeding, reducing its metabolism to a minimum. In addition, its slow pace of life and limited exposure to predators contribute to its extraordinary longevity compared to other amphibians. Jean-Claude Van Damme was the person behind the original footage filmed for the movie Predator. However, he hated the suit he had to wear and was replaced by actor Kevin Peter Hall. The initial design of the alien was very different from the one known today, and the first recordings did not convince the team. After his departure, the character was redesigned with the iconic appearance created by Stan Winston, and Kevin Peter Hall, with his tall stature, helped give it an imposing presence on screen. Actor Tom Cruise is only 5 feet 7 inches tall. Throughout his career, this has been managed with production techniques such as camera angles, special footwear, and on-set platforms to maintain visual proportions. Despite this, he has starred in major action hits, performing many of his own stunts, which has helped solidify his image as one of the most recognized figures in Hollywood. Antarctica contains 90% of all the ice on the planet in an area that is just under 1.5 times the size of the United States. The amount of ice there is astonishing. In some parts, such as East Antarctica, the ice averages 1.2 miles thick. But despite its thick ice, Antarctica is classified as a desert because very little moisture falls from the sky each year. The richest man in Hong Kong, billionaire Li Ka-shing, yes, that is his real name, dropped out of school before turning 16. He has an estimated net worth of $20.1 billion. He started working in a plastics factory and over time founded his own business, expanding into real estate, telecommunications, and ports, building one of the most influential business empires in Asia. The life expectancy of people with Down syndrome has increased from 25 years in 1983 to 60 years today. This progress is related to better medical care, especially for congenital heart conditions, which used to be one of the main causes of mortality. In addition, social inclusion, access to education, and early therapies have allowed for a more active life, with many adults working, living semi-independently, and fully participating in their communities. Pterodophobia is the fear of ferns. Although it may seem unusual, it is part of specific phobias, where the fear is centered on a particular object. In some cases, it may be related to negative experiences or cultural associations, and those who suffer from it may avoid parks, gardens, or damp areas where these plants grow abundantly. In 1980, Detroit gave Saddam Hussein the key to the city. The recognition was related to a donation made to a local church and to the ties of the Arab community in the area during that period. A group of flamingos is called a flamboyance of flamingos. They can also be called a stand, a colony, or a regiment. When they gather in large numbers, they can form groups of thousands of individuals, creating completely pink landscapes in shallow lagoons. Their characteristic color comes from their diet rich in carotenoids, and they often synchronize their movements while feeding, which helps them stir the water and find food more easily. According to research conducted by Eric Prather, an assistant professor of psychiatry at the University of California, you are 4 times more likely to catch a cold if you sleep less than 6 hours per night. In that study, volunteers were exposed to a cold virus, and it was observed that those who slept less developed symptoms more frequently. Sleep directly influences the immune system, affecting the production of defenses, so maintaining regular schedules can reduce the risk of common infections. Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump are the only 2 divorced men to be elected president. That includes more than 2 centuries of United States presidential elections. LSD, or acid, was legal in California until 1966. Its use became popular during the 1960s, especially in cultural and experimental contexts, before being banned due to concerns about its psychological effects. After it was made illegal, it became a controlled substance throughout the United States, although in recent years there has been renewed scientific interest in studying its possible therapeutic applications under strict medical conditions. In 1965, 16-year-old high school student Randy Gardner stayed awake for 11 days and 24 minutes. That is 265 consecutive hours. He holds the record for a human staying awake intentionally without the use of stimulants. It is illegal to die in the Houses of Parliament in London. Dog blood types are different from those found in humans. In fact, there are 6 main blood types, but surprisingly, 42% of dogs have the same type, which is universal. Sweat is actually odorless. It is only when bacteria on the skin and hair metabolize the proteins and fatty acids in sweat that an unpleasant smell is produced. Areas with a higher concentration of apocrine glands, such as the armpits, tend to generate stronger odors because they produce sweat that is richer in compounds that bacteria break down easily. Keeping the skin clean significantly reduces this process. It has been discovered that seawater in the Port of Boston in Massachusetts Bay contains caffeine. Although the traces are tiny, they are present, from 40 to 16 nanograms in the Port of Boston and from 5.2 to 71 nanograms in Massachusetts Bay. These compounds mainly arrive through treated wastewater, since caffeine is a common indicator of human activity, and its presence helps scientists track emerging contaminants in marine ecosystems. In 1922, Charles Osborne had a hiccup attack that lasted until 1990. He had hiccups 40 times per minute for 68 years, and possibly the strangest part is that when it stopped, it was for unknown reasons. Throughout his life, he consulted several doctors without finding an effective cure, and even so, he managed to live a relatively normal life, including getting married and having children, adapting to a condition that puzzled science for decades. Biologists led by Koji Nishida at Osaka University have discovered a new way to grow parts of the human eye, such as the retina, the cornea, the lens, and more, simply by using a small sample of adult skin. This advance is based on the reprogramming of cells to turn them into stem cells capable of forming ocular tissues, which opens possibilities for treating diseases such as blindness or corneal injuries without the need for donors, reducing the risk of rejection and improving visual regeneration. A mini specially designed and radio-controlled was used to transport javelins, hammers, shot puts, and discus across the field at the 2012 London Olympic Games. The mini-minis measure 39 inches long and can carry loads of up to 40 pounds. The Witwatersrand Basin in South Africa, which is only 2.7 square miles, has produced more gold than any other continent, about 50,000 tons over 120 years, which is nearly half of all the gold ever mined. There was a cathedral called Luminaria de Canya on display at the 2012 Festival of Light in Belgium, which was 92 feet tall and was illuminated by 55,000 LED lights. Approximately 50% of Asians have trouble metabolizing alcohol because they lack a liver enzyme that is necessary to process it. This condition, known as ALDH2 deficiency, causes symptoms such as facial flushing, rapid heartbeat, and discomfort even with small amounts of alcohol, so many people choose to avoid it to prevent those unpleasant effects. Big Ben in London, England, is actually leaning toward the northwest by 0.26 degrees, which puts it out of alignment at its highest point by 1.6 feet. This was discovered when Transport for London commissioned a report. It is believed that the London clay on which the tower was built is drying out, causing the tilt. Gelatin is made from collagen that is produced by boiling the bones, skin, and hides of animals such as cows and pigs. People have been consuming it since 1897, and it represents around 80% of the gelatin market. In addition to its use in food, it is also used in pharmaceutical products, such as capsules, and in the cosmetic industry. Its ability to form gels makes it useful in a wide variety of culinary and technical applications. There are what are known as fainting goats. In fact, Tennessee celebrates a fainting goat festival. These goats are born with a condition called myotonia congenita, which causes their muscles to stiffen for 10 to 20 seconds whenever they are startled, which can cause them to faint easily. Some seabirds, such as the penguin, have a supraorbital gland located just above their eyes that can remove sodium chloride from their bloodstream. It works like our kidneys removing salt, which allows the penguin to survive without access to fresh water. The penguin excretes the salt byproduct as brine through its beak. There is a pub in Athlone, Ireland, called Sean's Bar, that has been open since the year 900 after Christ. The Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital of New York Presbyterian has a computed tomography room that has been transformed into a pirate-themed island. Children enter the room by walking a plank and then lie down on a table shaped like a boat. Abraham Lincoln was in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. He had an imposing physical size of 6 feet 4 inches, was widely known for his wrestling skills, and only had one recorded defeat in 12 years. Barbie's full name is Barbara Millicent Roberts. Her creator, Ruth Handler, invented her in 1959 and named her after her daughter Barbara. And if you are wondering, yes, Ken also has a full name. It is Ken Carson. Over time, Barbie has had hundreds of different professions, from astronaut to doctor, and her fictional background places her as being from the city of Willows in Wisconsin. According to recent evaluations by the firm Interbrand on the best global brands, Apple and Microsoft have remained among the top positions in the global ranking, reflecting their continued influence in the industry. Google also continues as one of the most valuable brands, while Amazon and Samsung are among the most prominent. Together, these companies represent the dominance of the technology sector in brand value worldwide today. The diameter of the planet Uranus is 31,763 miles wide. That is 4 times larger than Earth. In addition, it is one of the few planets that rotates almost on its side, with an axis tilted more than 90 degrees, which causes extreme seasons where each pole can spend entire decades in darkness or under sunlight. In 1881, dentist Alfred Southwick had the idea for the electric chair after witnessing a strange accident in which an intoxicated man died after accidentally touching the terminal of a live generator. Southwick thought that electricity could offer a faster method of execution and collaborated with engineers and politicians to develop it, which led to its adoption in the state of New York in the late 19th century. The advertising character that you and I know as the Michelin Man has been used by the tire company intermittently for 116 years. But the coolest part is that he has a real name. It is Bibendum. His first appearance dates back to the late 19th century, when he was created for an advertising campaign in France, and over time, he became one of the most recognizable icons in the world of advertising, appearing in posters, events, and international campaigns for generations. The Parliament of Pakistan became one of the first government complexes in the world to operate entirely on solar energy. This change was part of an effort to adopt cleaner energy sources and reduce costs, and today, it stands out as an early example of the use of renewable energy in government buildings. There are parts of the Atacama Desert in Chile that have not seen a drop of water since record-keeping began. This place is considered one of the driest on the planet, with areas where humidity is so low that it barely supports life. Its extreme conditions have been used by scientists as a model to study environments similar to Mars and to test space technology. The average person has 2 million sweat glands. This disorder is also known as trimethylamminuria and is related to the body's inability to break down that substance in the liver. Although it is usually not dangerous, it can cause significant social difficulties, and in some cases, it is managed with specific diets and certain daily care. Nearly 1 billion birds die each year in the United States due to collisions with glass. Although most people have seen or heard a bird hit a window, they often believe it is an unusual event, but statistically, it is not. Lawn darts with sharp, elongated tips are banned in Canada. These games, known as lawn darts, were removed from the market after several serious accidents, especially involving children, due to their heavy metal tips. The ban aims to prevent injuries, as they could cause serious harm when falling from a height, which also led to similar restrictions in other countries, such as the United States. In 1952, Mr. Potato Head was the first toy advertised on television. Nearly 2 million were sold in the first year alone, and Mrs. Potato Head arrived 1 year later in 1953. Originally, the pieces were stuck into real fruits and vegetables, until later a plastic body was included. Its success marked the beginning of a new era in children's advertising. Apple has managed to recover gold and other valuable materials through the recycling of devices such as iPhone, iPad, and Mac. These initiatives are part of its sustainability programs, through which important resources are reused. Gold is often used in consumer electronics because it is highly resistant to corrosion and an excellent conductor of electricity. and although silver conducts better, it deteriorates more easily. At the castle of the Austrian brewer Starkenberger, you can actually swim in beer. They have 7 pools of 13 feet filled with 42,000 pints of warm beer and some water, where you can sit and relax fully submerged. The beer is rich in vitamins and calcium, and it is believed that sitting in it is good for the skin and can help heal open wounds and psoriasis. Rockefeller Center receives an average of around 470,000 people on a typical weekday, and during the holiday season, the number can approach 800,000 people per day, making it one of the busiest places in the city. Shayla Wiggins, 19 years old, from Riverton, Wyoming, found a dead body floating in a river while playing Pokemon Go. She was trying to find a Pokemon near a natural water source, but she found something else. In the past, some Starbucks cafes in Saudi Arabia had separate areas for different groups of customers, such as single men, women, and families, in line with local social norms of that time. However, these practices have changed over time, and today, many of those restrictions have been relaxed or eliminated as part of more recent social reforms in the country. On May 20th, 2016, a man named Aaron Chervenak drove all the way from Los Angeles to a small chapel in Las Vegas to marry his love, his smartphone. According to Professor Charles B. Gerba of the Department of Soil, Water, and Environmental Science at the University of Arizona, 20% of office coffee mugs carry fecal bacteria. Elvis Presley had a twin brother who was stillborn. His name was Jesse Garin. Most Bolivian families have a dried llama fetus under the foundations of their homes for good luck. They are most commonly found in Bolivia's witches' market, where you can also find toad talismans, owl feathers, and stone amulets. In an attempt to get in shape and lose weight, Kong Yan, 54 years old, from Jilin, China, walks daily with an 88-pound rock balanced on his head. The German footwear company Nat2 has created the first vegan wooden footwear. They are made of up to 90% real sustainable wood, which is applied to organic cotton and engraved with vectors in such a way that the material bends and becomes soft and flexible, like fine leather. A giant granite ball in the Russian city of Yekaterinburg was painted to look like a giant pokeball. When Neil Armstrong became the first man to walk on the moon in 1969, he carried a piece of muslin fabric from the left wing of the original Wright Flyer of 1903, the airplane of the Wright brothers, and a piece of wood from the left propeller of the plane in his spacesuit. A group of porcupines is fittingly called a prickle. In English, the term prickle directly refers to their sharp defenses. Although they are usually solitary animals, they can sometimes gather in small groups, especially in areas with abundant food or shelter. Their quills do not shoot out, but they detach easily upon contact, which makes them a very effective defense against predators. In China, you can buy pears shaped like baby Buddhas. Farmers attach a mold to the growing fruit to achieve the shape. In addition to baby pears, a company called Fruit Mold makes heart-shaped cucumbers, square watermelons, and other deliciously strange shapes. A small bat was seen clinging to the orange external fuel tank of the Space Shuttle Discovery during its launch on March 15, 2009. Despite the intense noise, vibrations, and extreme heat of liftoff, the animal remained attached throughout the countdown, which caught the attention of NASA engineers who documented the event as a rare occurrence in this type of mission. A creature called the Prasinohema skink lives on the island of New Guinea and has green blood, bones, and tissues. No other vertebrate is known to have green blood, and it is extremely toxic to humans. Lyme disease received its name because it was first recognized in 1975, when researchers found that a large number of children in Lyme, Connecticut, were being diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. The medical term for the butt crack is the intergluteal cleft, also known as the natal cleft and the vertical gluteal fold. The warehouse scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark was actually a matte painting created by artist Michael Pangrazio. It took him 3 months to create it. It was painted on glass, and the live-action shots were filmed through a hole in it. In 2001 and 2002, Argentina had 5 presidents in 2 weeks. The chain of presidents began when Fernando de la Rúa resigned in December 2001. The last of the 5 was appointed in January 2002 amid large protests. According to the Guinness World Records, the first human cannonball was a woman named Rosa Zazel Richter in 1877. She was fired a distance of about 20 feet at the Westminster Aquarium in London, England. The Milky Way has between 100 billion and 400 billion stars, but we can only see a few thousand with the naked eye from Earth, since our solar system is located approximately 27,000 light-years from the galactic center. The Parliament of Iceland is the oldest, still active parliament in the world. It was founded in the year 930. Political meetings typically lasted 2 weeks in June, which was a period of uninterrupted daylight and good weather. In China, there is a delicacy called virgin boy eggs. These eggs are actually soaked in the urine of young boys, and the urine is collected from school bathrooms. It is believed that eating this may have health benefits. Steve Gerling, the master builder of Lego, had never touched a single Lego before starting his job. Before joining Lego, he had experience in creative fields such as design and illustration, which allowed him to quickly adapt to the use of the blocks. Over time, he developed advanced building techniques and participated in large-scale projects, creating detailed models that combine technical precision with artistic creativity. Searching on Google, "do a barrel roll" makes your entire browser do a full spin. The tallest outdoor elevator in the world is the Beilong Elevator, also known as the 100 Dragons Elevator. It transports tourists 1,083 feet up the side of a massive sandstone pillar in a mountain range in China's Hunan province. It is so large that it can carry 50 people at a time. Some insects smell with their genitals. In species such as certain moths, chemical receptors are located in structures near their reproductive organs, which allows them to detect pheromones with great precision during mating. This ability is so sensitive that they can perceive traces at long distances, even at minimal concentrations, which increases their chances of finding a mate in environments where encounters are infrequent. The first product ever sold using a barcode scan was a pack of 10 juicy fruit chewing gums. The transaction took place at 8:01 in the morning on June 26, 1974, at a Marsh supermarket in Troy, Ohio. Dwayne Johnson played American football for the Calgary Stampeders of the CFL in 1995, before dedicating himself to wrestling and acting. He was part of the team in the preseason as a defensive lineman, although he did not play official games and was released months later. After that stage, he decided to follow in his family's footsteps in wrestling, where he achieved worldwide fame before becoming one of the biggest movie stars. How to kiss was one of the most popular searches on YouTube. It was followed by how to tie a tie, how to draw, and how to get a six-pack in 3 minutes. There is a genetic disease called fish odor syndrome, where a person excretes an excess of a chemical substance called TMA in their urine, sweat, and breath that makes them smell like rotten fish. Napoleon Bonaparte wore his black beaver felt hat sideways, rather than with the points facing front and back, so that he could be easily identified on the battlefield. This style, known as en bataille, allowed him to stand out among his officers, who wore it in the traditional way. It is said that he owned several nearly identical hats and rarely decorated them, maintaining a simple appearance that contrasted with the more elaborate uniforms of other commanders. Bill Gates received an honorary knighthood from Queen Elizabeth, but because he is American, he cannot use the title Sir. The animal rights group PETA approached the band Pet Shop Boys to ask them to change their name to Rescue Shelter Boys as a protest against the cruel conditions of many pet stores. Neil Tennant and Chris Lowe did not do it, but according to a post on their website, they believe the request raises an issue worth discussing. The barrel-eye fish has a completely transparent head. It lives at depths of about 6,560 to 8,530 feet, where darkness approaches absolute black. Its tube-shaped eyes are oriented upward to detect silhouettes of prey, but they can rotate forward when it feeds. Inside its head, these organs can be clearly seen, protected by a fluid that maintains their sensitivity in that extreme environment. According to a study conducted by Dr. Peter Johnson from the School of Science and Psychology at Western Sydney University, people who stay up late at night are more likely to show antisocial personality traits such as Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathic tendencies. President Calvin Coolidge had a pet raccoon named Rebecca. It was originally supposed to be eaten at his White House Thanksgiving dinner in 1926, but the Coolidge family found her friendly and docile and decided to keep her as a pet instead. In Japan, if you are in someone's home and need to use the bathroom, you must change your house slippers for toilet slippers. Not only that, but you must then remove the toilet slippers before leaving the bathroom. This custom is part of a strong hygiene culture, where the goal is to prevent bathroom dirt from mixing with other areas of the home. Forgetting to remove them can be considered a rather embarrassing mistake. Originally, Yahoo was called Jerry's Guide to the World Wide Web, after one of its creators, Jerry Yang. It was officially incorporated on March 2, 1995. The mortar used in the construction of the Great Pyramids of Giza is of unknown origin. It has been analyzed, and although its chemical composition is known, it cannot be reproduced and is stronger than the stone. This is the reason why it still stands today, and it was built sometime between 2540 and 2560 before Christ. The oldest lighthouse in the world is the Tower of Hercules in Spain. It was erected in the 1st century and is still operational. Of Roman origin, it has been restored several times over the centuries to remain in service. Today, it is a World Heritage Site and continues to guide vessels along the Atlantic coast, combining its historical value with modern maritime signaling technology. The Vatican has its own soccer team. Vatican City is the smallest independent state in the world and, therefore, has its own national soccer team. Silbury Hill, near Avebury in Wiltshire, England, is the largest prehistoric man-made mound in Europe. It is 130 feet tall, and its purpose is still unknown. Researchers found one of the first Iron Maidens in a castle in Nuremberg, Germany. An Iron Maiden is a device where a person is placed inside a sarcophagus with spikes on the inner surface. If you were to drop a steel ball and a rubber ball of the same size from the same height, the steel ball will bounce higher because it regains its original shape faster than the rubber ball. In 1967, St. Paul, Alberta, Canada, built the world's first UFO landing pad. The 130-ton structure consists of a raised platform with a map of Canada engraved on the backing, composed of stones provided by each province of Canada. The platform also has a time capsule that will be opened on the centennial of the platform's inauguration in 2067. In 1998, construction worker Travis Bogomil was accidentally shot with a nail gun that embedded a 3.25-inch nail into his skull. The nail lodged in the area of the brain that normally handles processing mathematics. He was completely fine after the nail was removed, except that his math skills were no longer what they used to be. During the construction of the Hoover Dam, 96 people died from industrial accidents, such as drowning, explosions, falling rocks or landslides, falls from the canyon wall, truck accidents, and so on. Working conditions were extremely harsh, with temperatures that could exceed dangerous levels inside the tunnels. Despite the risks, the project was completed ahead of schedule and became one of the greatest engineering works of its time. San Francisco is the first major city in the United States to require all new buildings to have solar panels installed on the roof. The measure, approved in 2016, applies to low-rise constructions and includes solar systems or green roofs. This initiative aims to reduce emissions, promote clean energy, and decrease electricity consumption, becoming a reference for other cities that have begun to adopt similar regulations in recent years. The Golden Gate Bridge uses the largest bridge cables ever made. They were so long that they could actually wrap around the world more than 3 times at the equator. Each main cable is composed of thousands of interwoven steel wires, which gives it enormous strength and flexibility. This design allows the bridge to withstand strong winds and seismic movements, remaining stable despite the extreme conditions of the area. The Aztec people often used cocoa beans as currency. With them, they could buy food, pay tribute, and even acquire slaves in certain markets. Their value was so established that there were exact measures to count them, and falsifying them by filling them with mud was punished. In addition, cocoa was not only used for trade, but also to prepare beverages reserved for the nobility and warriors. On D-Day, at least 500 canvas dummies were dropped far from the beaches of Normandy to distract from the real landing zones. The dummies, called Ruperts, measured just under 3 feet tall, came with battle sounds, and were designed to self-destruct upon landing so that the Germans could not find them. A study published in the journal Neurobiology of Aging shows that the more flights of stairs a person climbs and the more years of schooling a person completes, the younger the brain appears physically. Researcher Jason Steffner, a scientist at the Perform Center at Concordia, found that brain age decreases 0.95 years for each year of education and decreases 0.58 years for each daily flight of stairs climbed. The largest coin in the world was issued by the Royal Canadian Mint in 2007. It was 20 inches in diameter and 1 inch thick. It was made of 99.9% pure gold, weighs 220 pounds, and is estimated to be worth $1 million. Argyria is a condition that turns a person's skin a bright blue color. It is caused by chronic exposure to silver. A man from California named Paul Carrison developed this after using a special silver-based preparation to treat a skin condition and drinking colloidal silver, a product that consists of silver particles suspended in liquid. During World War II, because many players were called into service, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles combined to form a single team, the Steagles. This merger occurred in 1943 and was a temporary solution approved by the league to keep the competition active. According to research conducted and published in the journal Chemosensory Perception, people who scored high on a psychopathy test had more difficulty distinguishing different smells and also identifying odors. In other words, if your sense of smell is impaired, you could be a psychopath. Former President Barack Obama won 2 Grammy Awards before being elected. They were for Best Spoken Word Album, one for an audio recording of his 1995 memoir, Dreams from My Father, and the second was for The Audacity of Hope. In Peru, fried or roasted guinea pig is considered a delicacy known as cuy. It has been a staple in the diet of Peru for about 5,000 years. Since pre-Incan times, it has been raised in rural households due to its easy maintenance and nutritional value, and today it remains a traditional dish present in festivities and celebrations in various regions of the country. Without designer Jill Hubley, who lives in Brooklyn, New York, created a detailed map identifying each of the trees in New York City. The project uses public data from the Urban Tree Census, allowing people to explore species, sizes, and specific locations. Thanks to this tool, anyone can find out how many trees are on their street or which types are most common in each neighborhood. The Concorde aircraft, which had its final flight in 2003 at a top speed of 1,350 miles per hour, could fly from London, England to New York City in about 3 hours, approximately half the time of other passenger planes. It flew at more than twice the speed of sound, producing the characteristic sonic boom, and during the flight, passengers could see the curvature of the Earth and the sky darken slightly due to the altitude reached. The Harry Potter series has been translated into more than 70 languages. There are even versions in less common languages, and some special editions with cultural adaptations. The global phenomenon of the saga has led millions of readers around the world to grow up with its stories, making it one of the most influential and successful book collections in contemporary literature. Marigolds and other plants that contain the pigment xanthophyll are added to chicken feed so that the yolks of their eggs appear more orange. This pigment is deposited directly into the yolk through the diet, so its color can vary depending on what the hen eats. In many regions, consumers associate more intense yolks with higher quality, so producers adjust the feed to achieve that more attractive tone. Petaluma, California has hosted a World's Ugliest Dog contest since the 1970s. It is extremely competitive, and the title of the World's Ugliest is highly coveted. Many of the participants are rescued dogs that have found a second chance, and the event takes place during the Sonoma Marin Fair, where winners receive cash prizes and media attention that often completely changes the lives of their owners and pets. The fastest avalanche ever recorded in history was the volcanic explosion of Mount St. Helens on May 18, 1980. The speed reached was 250 miles per hour. This event included a massive landslide and a lateral blast that flattened entire forests in minutes, becoming one of the most studied volcanic disasters and drastically altering the landscape in a matter of seconds. According to a study conducted in 2001 by Diana Reese of the Osborne Laboratories of Marine Sciences at the New York Aquarium, dolphins actually recognize themselves and notice changes in their appearance when they look in a mirror. Before this research, only higher primates, such as humans and chimpanzees, had demonstrated self-recognition in mirrors.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.